Hi, my name is Lauren Hiller. I'm here today with Sean Sherman, who is the co-owner and brewer at Idle Hounds Brewing Company in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. Sean, let's start today by talking a little bit about your professional background prior to starting the brewery.
I was in the hotel restaurant business for 19 years. I worked my way up, went to culinary school, been a pastry chef, front of the house manager, general manager, opened a bunch of different restaurants for different owners, and just enjoyed the creative aspect of working in restaurants for a long time.
And so that kind of opened an avenue for you to go into something a little bit different here with the brewery.
Yeah, exactly. I just learned to, I just enjoyed the whole creative aspect. And brewing is, starting a brewery was kind of a whole nother adventure and creative business outlets.
So now that you are in the brewery pretty much every day, tell me some about your day-to-day operations. What do you do on any given day?
Day to day is pretty much whatever it takes to keep the business floating. We run on a really small staff. That's what we decided to do for business wise. We kind of run it more like a restaurant does, keep a small staff, keep the payroll really trim and tight. Also, it's so that we learn to do what each and everyone else is doing.
Right.
It's not just farmed out so that one person does this and one person does this and one person does this, and everyone's just left to do their own little thing. Like a lot of businesses hire out to do that sort of thing. We wanted to learn in starting a business how the whole business worked from ground up until we were really well established and really knew everything. Then we could start hiring people to bring them in and train while we kept growing and advancing the business out. So every day could be paying bills, balancing the books, scrubbing kegs, canning, brewing, grinding grain, running the tap room, which is pouring beers, cashing people out.
You guys are just totally cross-trained, and you're kind of a jack of all trades.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And whenever you have a free time, you just ask one of the other guys kind of where they are on their little job. Do you need a hand with whatever they're doing? We do kind of specialize a little bit in what our overall premise is for each one of us.
Right.
Like I handle a little bit more of books and managerial stuff. And Chaz, who works for me and Fraser, one of the other owners, he does a lot more of the cleaning of equipment.
Right.
Which is super important in a brewery. And Fraser, the other owner, takes care of making sure the brewing is going correctly, as in he orders the grain, orders yeast, hops, make sure that the recipes are all built correctly, that the timing on everything is being followed correctly. He's the overall in charge of making sure the beer from start to finish is going according to plan. That's his main thing. So
that's awesome. Now, I know a little bit about this since I know you personally, but since we were talking about you and the other owner, Fraser, can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration that you guys had to start this business, like where that came from?
I hired Fraser to work with me in Summer Kitchen Restaurant. And he was working alongside me, as you know, in the restaurant. It's a really small restaurant, just two of us working behind the line. We usually have a dishwasher back there with us. So you get to know the other person very quickly who you work with. And we got to know each other like the second night. We were already talking about you know, where you were from, what did you want to do, what are your inspirations in the future, that sort of thing. And he told me that he had gone to a brewing school in England, and he worked in a homebrew shop for years when he came back in Salt Lake City, and that he had wanted to get into working in brewery, and that his ultimate goal was to always own a brewery was his ultimate goal. And I had always worked in restaurants and been a culinary in my background, and I had worked at opening restaurants, and always my ultimate goal was always to own a restaurant. So it didn't take but probably, I don't know, a day or two later before we started talking about opening a brew pub together, where he would do the beer and I would do the food, which kind of led us to a little bit of the business sense where I started looking right into the viability of brew pubs, and where your money goes and how well structured that is, and discovered that, you know, it was a lot safer of a bet to go into a full production brewery than it was into a brew pub, because a brew pub, if your restaurant's doing well and your beer isn't, then you'll start taking money from one venture to keep the other venture afloat, or vice versa. So one business part always leans on the other business part, and that can get tricky. Actually, there's been a brewery down here before a lot of people didn't know about, and that they did that, and one part of the business strangled out the other part of the business and collapsed the entire brew pub.
And you weren't going to take your chances on
And yeah, that doesn't seem like a good thing. And you know, when you get a license, you also to get a good license in brewing, you have to get your state and federal license.
Right, and that was another point that I wanted to bring
Yeah.
up, like how like what are the legal aspects that are involved with opening
Yeah,
an
it's
establishment that serves alcohol,
huge.
and
It's a
where does
lot.
that
It's really huge. You start with going for your federal license, and that is you're basically letting the government into every bit of your entire background. They're allowed to go, and you go through full everything from terrorist background checks to full financial 7-year background checks. You know, electronic fingerprinting that has to be 60 days within every part of whatever paperwork you're putting in. So actually we had ours done like 3 times for each owner, which there's Fraser, myself, and his mom. So, and in the very beginning was his dad too. So we all had to keep getting it redone for different parts. You have to give layouts of what the building is going to look like, including the equipment on the inside. They said so that in case there was no lights and they had to storm your building for terrorist reasons, they would know what your building would look like on the inside in the dark. You know, I mean, just you have to do everything. I mean, you know, if anybody has done anything wrong in the past legally, it has to be written out. They can deny you. They can deny your application for any reason like that at all. So I mean, you know, you have to give them everything.
And then when you opened the tap room after you started brewing, you had to.
That was a whole nother license. First, we had finished the federal, and then after we got our federal license, we still had to go and get the state license. So even though the federal grants you permission to brew, the state doesn't. So then you go do the state, which I thought was kind of weird in reverse.
Yeah, you would.
You would think that the state would be cool that if the federal approves you, but the federal approves you, then you go and get your state, and the state basically asks you all the same stuff. They just want their fee basically, but they want to ask you a whole bunch of questions too. So you answer all the questions again, do a whole bunch more paperwork, and pay them their fee, and get approvals, and you're approving your styles, your labels, everything that they want. Which a big thing also, a little side note, is that you know, a lot of people don't think about in alcohol business. your names and your labels of your product are all scrutinized harshly.
Wow.
Because they want to make sure that you're not hiding anything inappropriate.
Yeah, no innuendos.
No innuendos in the names or whatnot. And is there anything that's going to be put into your product that they need to go back and have you send to them to, look under a microscope at? What are you putting in there? You're putting raw bananas, or you putting some weird concoction, who knows what, nowadays people will put in their beer.
Pretty much anything.
Alcohol,
like.
yeah, pretty much. So they want to know what's in there. So then we went back. Then you go your state one, and then you then at the very end, once all that's done, then you have to go through, and when we wanted to get our county one for our to get our tap room, then you have to apply just to get 2COP, which is to consume on premise license.
Wow.
So even though we were making and selling beer legally and fine and everything, we were not allowed to sell to the public in the tap room. We had to go through the county then, and the county wanted to know half of everything again, and they wanted to have draw-ups, and they wanted to know how many people and how many spaces for parking and how big it was. And we had the fire marshal out there, and everybody came out there again and double checked everything, and got approved for it all, and finally got another license for that one. So it's just another hand in the cookie jar.
Right.
It's a very big part of the game is businesses is how many hands in the cookie jar and how many people are tracking what you're doing. Taxes on all levels are really big.
I can imagine.
Yeah, state and federal are really big. They want to account for in alcohol. As soon as you make the product, they want to know how much product is being made, and then once you're packaging it, how much product is being packaged, and then once you're actually putting it out the door to go to your distributor, how much product is going out to your distributor. So they're trying to figure out how much is being lost,
right,
as far as what we have to get rid of in the part where we're cleaning our beer. We're getting rid of pulling out the hops and the yeast and things like that, the parts that we can't use in the cleaning process of the beer. And they want to also know how much product that we packaged versus how much we sent out to our distributor, so how much we have in-house, and then they look at how much we sold. So they're trying to make sure that you're not taking kegs anywhere and not accounting for it.
Right.
So that you're not skipping them on any money that they could be getting anywhere. So there's a lot of accounting to it all.
It's kind of a constant audit.
To be yes, and they come out and audit you randomly.
Oh, that sounds like
yes.
Like
So
a
they
real
can come out.
pleasure.
They come out anytime and randomly audit you also.
So knowing all of this now, I can't imagine the time that you guys took to put into the business plan before you even went to present it to the federal regulatory board. Do you have any idea, like, how much time you guys spent planning?
Well, we spent a lot of time planning. A lot of the things like that we didn't know about and think about when we were doing it. There is no building a brewery for dummies books out there.
Right. Unfortunately.
Right. The explosion and expansion in breweries went from about 1,800 to 4,200 breweries in 2 years.
It's incredible.
And so there's such a vast growth of expansion that anyone who knows anything about it is automatically doing their own brewery or being taken in under someone else to help them do it, that there's not people out there to help you out very much. So a lot of things we learned on the fly really quickly.
which your experience in a restaurant, I would imagine, helped you.
It does help you a lot, and there's a lot of forgiveness out there too.
Right.
A lot of times they've come along and they're like, do you have this? And you're like,